We spoke last week about the spirit that exists in every creation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. With that touch, we didn't speak about man. We spoke about the animal world, the vegetable world, and the innate world, the world that doesn't move. And we proved how each and every one of them has a spiritual dimension to it. And there is nothing in the world that does not have some type of quote-unquote neshama, in whichever way it translates and in whichever way it expresses itself. And we proved that each one of them, including the stones, have a spiritual dimension to them. So let's speak a little bit about man now. When we see the creation of man, there is one word that is used for both creation of man and the animal. In Bereshit it says, "Vayitzer Hashem Elokim et ha'adam afar min ha'adam." The word is Vayitzer, He created. Hashem Elokim created man from the earth, from the dust of the earth. And we find the same by animals. It says, "Vayitzel Hashem Elokim min ha'adama kol hayat hasadim." From the earth, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created all the beasts of the field. It's important to note that it's the same word that is used for both, which is somewhat strange. Why the Torah would choose the world? There's many ways of saying, of stating creation in Hebrew. Asiyah, Beriyah, Yetzirah. There's many words that Kadosh Baruch Hu could have chosen a different word for man than animal. That's what we expect. But that's not what happens. But yes, what does happen is that one Vayitzer is written with two yuds, and the other one is written with one yud. That's the difference that we find in the two. The Vayitzer of Adam, of the man, is written with two yuds, to tell us that man was created two creations, Shetei Yetzirot. Man is two creations. Yetzirah min hatachtonim, he is created from the earthly creations. Yetzirah min ha'elyonim, and he is created also from the divine, the celestial creatures. Which means that man is a composition of an animalistic creation and a divine, spiritual, angelic creation. The body is a creation from this world. The neshama is a creation from the heavens, the upper world. The Chachamim tell us that some of the functions of man are very similar to the functions of animals, and some of the functions of man are similar to the functions of angels. And that's the composition of man. Ochel v'shoteh, man eats and drinks like animals do. Man reproduces himself as animals do. Matir Gelalim, man has to use the bathrooms the same as animals do. Umet, and man dies like animals. On the other hand, man, omed, stands. Animals cannot stand. They will go and fall the closer to the earth, to the physicality of their being. Man stands because there is an element of heavenward direction for man. Man stands with his head up high. Like the Malachim, man speaks, man understands, man sees, has vision. The Gemara even adds in the concept of Malachim that man has da'at, he has understanding. Man speaks Lashon HaKodesh, which the Malachim do. So you see that man is a combination of two worlds. And in essence, man, because of his mission in this world, had to be created in this seemingly contradicting composition, that one is pulling towards heaven and the other one pulling towards earth, one pulling towards total spirituality and the other one pulling totally towards physicality. And the need for that is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu created man and wanted man to earn his way to eternity. In order for man to earn his way to eternity, he had to be given a choice between good and bad. He had to be given a choice of action between that which is correct and that which is not correct. And man is faced with a decision of every moment of his life in how to act, pulled by Yetzer HaTov towards the good and by Yetzer Hara towards the bad. Man now is forced to make choices. By making choices, man earns his way towards good or loses his way towards bad. But at the end of the day, it's no longer a charitable consequence that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but rather it is man with his own actions that acquires eternal life, or God forbid, the opposite. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not want man to be only taking. He wanted him to be deserving of what he gets. And for that, he gave us a choice. For that, man can say, I had the choice to be bad, and I chose to be good. And it was a great effort to be good. It took a lot to be good. So, in order for man to be able to make that choice, the world and man had to be created with somewhat of a conflict. So man has a choice. If God would have created a world that is composed only of good, man would not have a choice, would not make a choice. That's all there is. Only good. So whether he wants or he doesn't want, he's forced to be acting good. So then there is no temptation. Then there is no pulling away from the good that man would have to fight for, that man would have to commit himself to in a serious way. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, man, you come into this world to gain yourself an eternal life by the fact that you acted, by the fact that you made the right choices. That's how you're getting your eternal life. Not because I'm giving it to you as charity. Not I'm giving it to you because I'm merciful. It's you're getting it on your own right by the simple fact that you had a choice and you were tempted towards the bad and you chose the good. For that, there was a combination that was necessary. There was a combination that was necessary. There was a hiding in the part of God that was necessary. There was even a hiding of the concept of reward and punishment, because if it would be clear, if we had a picture here of what Gehinnom looks like and what Gan Eden good looks like, if you looked up and you saw a movie of it going on, you wouldn't have a choice. Nobody in his right mind would make a choice to end up in the wrong place. So we don't see it. We don't see it because we have to have the opportunity of a choice by our own thoughts and our own actions, and not because it's dictated to us by a reality that we see in front of us. If every person that sinned would get right away punished, and every person that did something good would get right away rewarded, and we would see it with our own eyes and connect it, there wouldn't be any choices. It would be clear what's happening. So you would have to be foolish not to follow what gives you reward and remove himself from what gives you punishment. So a world was created where sometimes there is a false reward in the physicality of this world, where man thinks that he's having a good life by living a physical life, a spiritual, free life. And that's where the temptation is. That's where the choice will have to be made. And that's where man is going to be rewarded at the end for making those choices. So you understand the necessity to create a man that has tendencies towards physicality and strong tendencies towards spirituality. And now the battle goes and begins with life and ends at the last moment, at the last breath of life, an ongoing battle that brings the person to a level of greatness, hopefully, after acquiring such opportunities that were given to him and being able to make the best out of them. So, for that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu composed man of a body and the soul. Man is the soul. Let's make no mistake about that if you speak about who's the man, who's the woman, who's the person is the soul. The body is a clothing for the soul. And the Pasuk says it, Oru basar talbisheni, you clothed me with skin and flesh. Talbisheni, levush, a piece of clothing. That's what the body is. And you will see that any time, many times, in the Torah, when there is a reference to the body, it's referred to as basar, flesh, or besar adam, flesh of man. That's body. Body is flesh. The neshama is the essence of man. Who are you? You are who your neshama is. In order for you to serve your mission in this world, because we must have a physicality, in order to preserve the neshama in its purity when it comes to this world, we are given a body. We are given a body that we have a mission to carry with our body. So our body will become the medium of expression for the neshama. So when the neshama will want to do something good, the neshama will use the body to do something. Because this is the world of action. When the neshama wants to do something bad, the neshama will use the body to do something bad. As the neshama uses the body for something good, the body becomes holier and holier. To the point that a person's mission, and certainly something that is achievable, that man can actually transform his body into a spiritual existence, where every action of the body is spiritual. There's nothing that the body does that is not exactly what the neshama wants it to do. That's our challenge. That's our challenge because the body will push us to do other things. But man can reach that level where he can train the body to be totally spiritual to the point that the body cannot in any way act different than the dictates of the neshama. Now, we spoke last week about animals, and we saw how animals would not eat foods that are not allowed, for example. So if an animal can reach the level of sanctity that naturally, without any understanding, but then there is a natural instinct that was created of Kedusha in that animal, that he's able to sense that there is something wrong with this food and I should not be eating it. If that can happen in an animal, which is the reality of physicality, certainly it can happen with men. So David HaMelech says, Chishavti derachai, I planned my ways. V'ashiva raglai eledotecha, and my feet have brought me to your commandments. What does this mean? Amar David said the following, Ribono shel olam, kol yom vayom hayiti mechashev ve'omer, every day I used to wake up and have plans for the day. Le'makom peloni ani olech, today I'm going to this place. Le'bayit peloni, le'dira pelonit ani olech, to this house I'm going to. I have plans. והשיבה רגלי ילדותיך. והיו רגלי מביאות אותי לבתי כנסיות ובתי מדרשות. My feet used to naturally take me to the Bet HaKnesset and to the Bet HaMidrash. David is making a statement that the level of spirituality in his life was so strong and powerful that it had created a body that was not able to do anything but to run to Torah. And no matter what the plans were, and no matter how much he headed towards his plans, his body took him somewhere else. His body took him to a place of Torah. This is the strength of a person. When one of the Tanaim was dying, he exclaimed himself about his arms. Work for these arms that are going to be buried, because they are like a Sefer Torah, like the arms of a Sefer Torah. Because the level of spirituality had so much infiltrated the very being of this body. Every cell of the body was so much infiltrated by Kedusha that the person becomes a kadosh, becomes a person that the body is holy. The body is holy. And people see the holiness in the person, in that body, without even having any contact with the neshama. You will see a tzaddik passing by, and you will sense in the physical of the tzaddik, you will sense the kedusha of that tzaddik. You will sense it without knowing, not because you sat down with him and you spoke to him, and his expressions are such that are giving you an understanding of what you do. It's the very essence of man can be changed. The very goof, the very body of the man can be changed by the fact that this is the kedusha has penetrated every part of that body, and the body becomes trained into being what it has to be and reaching what it has to reach naturally, as a natural instinct, where man no longer needs to fight, where man has already empowered every cell in his body to be spiritual and to be able to carry through what it is. One of the Rishonim says something interesting, that you see that when a person decides, in times when Jews were persecuted and they were killed for Kiddush Shem Shamayim, for the sanctification of God's name, he says that you will see that the moment the person decides to give up his life for God, no matter what they do to that person, the person will not scream from pain. The person will not have any physical expression to what's happening, as what's happening to it. It's a fascinating thing. It says you take a man and you put a finger near the fire, not in the fire, and he's already screaming, from the fear of the fire. Yet people were thrown into the fires and burnt alive, and you didn't hear it. It's a level where the person can elevate his body above the pain threshold that the person is used to, and become totally spiritual by that moment, where the person has taken the body to the highest level of spirituality that it can reach, and therefore the person is free from pain at that moment. It's a fascinating thing. He himself, this Marami Rotenburg, was killed he was the big Hakam of the community, and he was taken for ransom, and he sent a message to the community that they should not pay the ransom because it was exaggerated, and the government would only get used to kidnap big people and ask for more ransom. And he himself died in captivity, and his bodies would not be returned for many, many years after to the Jewish people for burial. And this is what he saw in his life as the Jew being able to elevate we heard of people going into surgery without anesthesia. People that can elevate their body to such a level where they no longer feel pain. It's the power of the neshama that we have inside us, that we can actually transform our body into something spiritual that doesn't feel pain. Sure, it's not something that everybody does, nor am I suggesting that anybody should try it, but the fact is that it happens. And it happened many times, that a person can elevate to that. So we do have a neshama, and we do have a guf, and yes, they could be contradictory to each other, and they could be opposing each other, but nevertheless, they form a team. They form a team that, with the proper balance and the proper power in the right place, that team becomes totally spiritual. Antoninus spoke always to Rabbeinu HaKadosh, always with philosophical questions, and he told Rabbeinu HaKadosh, man has a good excuse when he passes on from this world and goes to heaven. And they asked him why he didn't do what he was supposed to do. So, being that there is two partners here, Antonino said, one can blame the other. One can say, the neshama can say, what do you want from me? I didn't sin. It's my guf, it's the body that sins. And the body can say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu the same thing. I didn't sin, it's the neshama that gave me life. What gives life to the body? The neshama. So the guf can say the neshama is at fault. The neshama gave me life and pushed me to do these bad things. The neshama can say the opposite. I'm holy, I'm spiritual, I'm part of God. It's the body that you gave me that has pushed me to sin. And this way, neither will be punished. This is what Antonino said. So Rabbeinu HaKadosh gave him an example of how it works. told him that, imagine an orchard with beautiful fruits that belong to the king. And a lame person that couldn't stand on his legs, and the blind person were standing by this orchard, looking at the trees. And they're talking to each other, and they say, how are we going to reach the fruits of the trees and enjoy them? The lame person can't stand up, no legs, so he certainly cannot reach the tree, the heights of the tree. The blind person can't see, so can't go anywhere. And lo and behold, they actually find a way to do it, and we'll soon see what it was. And they eat all the fruits of the trees. The king comes and he sees that they have destroyed his orchard. And he tells them, who did this? So the lame person says, it can't be me. I can't even stand up. Right? The blind person says, it can't be me. I can't even see where I'm going. Right? So the king was faced with a reality, two people that couldn't do it, yet there were the only two people in the orchard, and the orchard was, the fruits of the orchard were gone. So somebody did it. So he understood very simply. So the king told the blind person, you have legs, stand up. You can stand up, you can walk, yes. But I can't see, you're right. So he took the lame person and he put him on top of the blind person. Now you, the lame person, you don't have legs, so the blind person is your legs. But the lame person has eyes, so he becomes the eyes. So together, they both together complemented each other to be able to reach the trees and to be able to eat the fruit. That's what the neshama of a Jew with the goof is. He will not, the Rabbeinu HaKadosh told them they will not be able to go and tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the body, it's his fault because the body is physical, I'm not, or vice versa. He's going to say one on top of the other one. Each one fulfilled what the other one was missing. And each one is at fault for substituting for what they need and providing the lacks that the other one. The same one, the blind acquired eyes through the lame person, and the lame person acquired legs through the blind person. And together they form a team that is able to be responsible for what they're doing. So this is what the combination of our neshama with our guf is. We have to understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it such that we have a body that can act because the neshama cannot act. The neshama has the will to do things, and the body is the medium to do these things. So you wake up in the morning, you go, you do your netilat yadayim, first action that you do. It's a neshama telling the body, I don't have hands, but you have hands, we're going to wash these hands. You don't do netilat yadayim, right? It's the lack of this expression of the neshama. But at the end of the day, whatever you take from beginning of the day till the end of the day, it will be the combination of both the body and the neshama that comes together to and this was the Yetzirah. This is the two Yetzirot that we spoke about, the two creations of man as we spoke of them. Now, let's speak a little bit about the concept of the Tzelem Elokim that we speak about. Man was created in the shape and image of God. What is this? Man has a tzelem. has the image. So, how does this neshama look? So the Zohar tells us Kol inu nishmatin, all the neshamot, the avu miyomadit bere alma, that were there from the day that world was created, kulu kaimin kamekucha berichu, they all stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, adelo nachtu le'alma, before they come down to this world, ve'ahidi yukna mamash dekaime behai alma deitchazun bebatat be'alma, with the same image that they will be seen in this world. And the same shape of the body of that man that is going to be in this world. So this is an interesting concept of what the neshama is. As we think of the neshama as something totally spiritual, they're telling us that the tzelem that we speak about, what we call aura in our language, is a thin shape of the body of man. Okay? So picture a transparency of your body, exactly with all the features of the body. That is there together with the neshama. It covers the neshama, it becomes that malbush that we spoke about for the neshama before it comes to this world. And it's extremely, extremely thin, yet it is the very image of the person that is coming to this world. So if somebody would see our neshama as it is, if somebody had, the people that claim to see an aura, and there are some people that claim they have the ability to see people's auras. That has to be a very thin, very, very, very thin expression of the body that man is. So there is a neshama, but there is a neshama that carries the shape of our body also together with it. It carries a shape of our image. And if you looked at the neshamot, you will see the image of each and every one. When you think of a neshama, of somebody that has passed on, you think of that spiritual level that has an aura that represents the body, that represents the shape of that person. For example, the Torah tells us, Zeh Sefer Toldot Adam. This is the book of descendants of man. So the Chachamim tell us, Elalo HaKadosh Baruch Hu le'Adam HaRishon dor dor v'dorshav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Adam HaRishon a view of every person that was to be created after him. So what did Adam HaRishon see? Did he see spiritual neshamot only? Or did he see neshamot that each one can be identified by this tzelem that we speak about, this aura of man that represents that man? And obviously we say, no, he recognized, this is Moshe Rabbeinu, this looks like Moshe Rabbeinu. It's a neshama, it's all spiritual, there is no body. It's not like we are, it's a spiritual expression of the body. If somebody would be able to reproduce something of the kind, you would see a neshama that has the same shape of man that came to this world. So much so that our whole life, our neshama carries this tzelem with it until sometime before death. The tzelem of the person disappears before the person actually dies. So there is a guf, the body, which we touch. There's a neshama, which is totally spiritual. And then there is a cover to that neshama that has the image of the body. And we believe that as a matter of fact, one of the Chachamim says that the pasuk in Shir HaShirim that we say often is in reference to that. At sheyafu hayom, until the day cools, venasu atzelalim, and the shadows flee. The tzelalim, the tzelem that we're speaking about, these shadows, it's like the shadow that envelops our neshama, which looks like us, and is very clearly us. That aura that represents us, and the aura is not a circle over your head or anything like that. It's something that actually, somebody who sees the aura, it's like a light that goes all over you, yeah? And that means that's the extension of that levush of the neshama that we speak about. That disappears before man. There have been recorded moments in many parts of the world where a person was lying down in their deathbed, and all of a sudden you see the aura get up and walk away. They have recorded cases where actually doors were open, and you saw the aura passing and opening doors as it removed itself from the body, and not necessarily Jews on, like, you know, the recorded. It's been recorded in not in Eretz Israel only, right? In other parts of the world also, where the aura of man is something real. We don't see it. Most people will never be able to have a catch on the aura of themselves or their fellow man. It's not something that is visible to us. But there were circumstances where the auras became they became very visible, and actually they were seen. They would see the aura, this body, this cloud that looks like the body of the person, is seen in different occasions at many times. For example, it says that Rabbeinu HaKadosh, after he died, he came down every Friday to his house. So what does that mean? He came every Friday, every Erev Shabbat, he came down to visit his house. And then one day, the servant saw him, and he said, okay, now that I'm seen, I can no longer go. If it's a neshama, there's nothing to see. If it is the tzelem that we speak about, this thin cloud that is in the shape of man, so then the maid could have seen it. Then it could have been visible to the eye of the person. So many times there is a reference to people being visible, people that have died, that we see them. People see them passing by for a second in front of them. And you would think they're crazy. No, they're not crazy. The tzelem is there, the neshama has the form, and it's a very thin, it's air through form, but it is there. It is there. Any time there is a visible expression of something like that, you have malachim that come down in the shape of a man. That's a tzelem that has come down. Something that happens often. And we find it in the Gemara. With Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was dying. At one moment at the time of death, he told his children, bring a chair. And they asked him, why do you need a chair? So he said, bring a chair because Chizkiyahu, the king of Israel, is here. And he needs a chair to sit. So, what is it? It's a clear vision of the tzelem of Chizkiyahu. It's not just a neshama, because all the neshamot would look the same. It's a neshama that is particular with the shape, this spiritual shape, this aura that covers man, that happens to this. We know this, the Chachamim tell us that at the time of death, the relatives of a person come down and they stand with him to bring him up to the world to come. So this happens. It happens today. People that will be sick at the time of death or shortly before, and they will say, there's my father, there's my mother. Yeah, and we think that, in Spanish we have the word, desvariando. It's not so. That's not, which means that the person is losing their minds in some level. That's not what it is. It's a reality of a vision of the tzelem of the father, the tzelem of the mother, when we know that they come to accompany the person to the next world, and they see it. It's a vision that is very clear, because at the time of death, there is much more clarity in the person than there is on a regular day, where everything, every existence is within the thickness of this world. There's no, there is difficult expressions of visual expressions as such as we know. But it's a reality that a person can perceive the tzelem of those people that are dear to him, yeah, and we have all the people, so many books were written after life, after death, yeah, where they all experience the same thing. The neshama sees their relatives, see friends that come at the moment. These are the people that died, and then they came back, and they were able to remember what they saw in the period of death, after death. And they all saw, what did they see? They saw the neshama of these people with this thin, veiled tzelem, which is the body of the person, and they were able to recognize by the shape of the body.
Does the tzelem change? Because we go from being very small
But,
to very big. So
but we're talking about the major features of man. This is not in any way, it does not have to be related in the ratio of what that man is. If you gain 10 pounds, the tzelem doesn't change.
Oh, okay.
Right, okay, you understand. It's mostly we're talking about, we won't have time today, but we're mostly talking about the face. We'll speak about it next week, but the idea is that there is an existence to the neshama that is very related to what we call that aura, that is very specific to the person, and you recognize in the neshama the very essence of the person. And this is when people come and they speak about out-of-body experiences. You understand that people have. It's if the neshama went, yeah, and the fact is that you recognize the neshamot as such. You recognize there is a level of unconsciousness, perhaps, that sees things and sees the world of neshamot in that way, but always recognizing, oh, I know who this is. I identify with this person. This person, even when they come to dreams, we'll speak at another occasion with dreams. It is the person with the tzelem. We never dream of a neshama as an abstract existence. We deal of somebody that we know with the features that we know, with the details that we know, sometimes in very detail, because the tzelem of the person is when somebody is hypnotized and taken somewhere else. It's the same concept, that the person will contact the tzelem of other existences, or of his own existences before, right? And be able to recognize what is in it. So we see that the tzelem Elokim, which comes and stays with us till before death, is a real existence of what the Zohar says, very simple, that it's a levush. It is that clothing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to the neshama, but it is with the same shape and form of what the person is to be in this world, and recognizable when Tahiyat HaMetim will come. It will come also. How will you know who's who? How will you know? If it's all neshamot, it's all neshamot. You will recognize in the tzelem who the person is, that this is who you know, this is who they are. So some people say a month before. And it's a journey to heaven. Starts the journey to heaven. There's no question. There's no question that that's a fact also. You see a change in the behavior of the person that doesn't have the tzelim anymore. You see a certain, if somebody would study the people, you would see sometimes that was the predicting aspect, people that were not sick. And all of a sudden there's a change in their behavior, in the way that the Chachamim understood that the tzelim is gone, right? And the person, physically, there is no indication that that person is going to pass away, right? Yet the Chachamim were able to see, this person is without the tzelim, that means they're on their way out. We have, you don't have to go very far. Rabbi Yaakov Abu Hatzira sent somebody that was with him. He told him, go home. He was with him. He told him, go home. He said, why should I go home? Having a good time here. Yeah. Why should I go home? He insisted that he should go home, right? Because he saw that the tzelim was gone, and as soon as he arrived home, he died. And Rabbi Yaakov Abu Hatzira wanted to spare him to die away from his home, away from his family. So he told him, he was able to sense that the tzelim was gone already. So now the person was healthy, Not everybody that dies is sick, right? For people die suddenly, but it doesn't mean that the tzelim departs then. The tzelim could have departed before, and those that have the vision to be able to see the tzelim, they will be able to see that that it's no longer there, and therefore they would be told that their time has come, in whichever way they would be told or not told, but they would prepare for the fact that the tzelim is no longer. So this is just a small aspect of the neshama. I warned you that this is a scary class. That's why maybe the men are afraid to come. So, but we're okay. Okay. So some people do.